Hello and welcome. You're watching Business Today Television. I'm Sakshi, Batra, and this is BTS, that's Behind the Scenes, a show where we share a sneak peek into the latest edition of the Business Today magazine with all our viewers. And this one is going to be truly special, not just for us at BT, but also to every Indian out there, because this issue is dedicated to the passing of a titan, Ratan Tata. Krishna Gopalan, the executive editor, is joining in on the show with us, and he's the one who's covered the larger than life of Ratan Tata in this edition, and he's going to be helping us understand all aspects of how the Tata Group changed for the better all through the reign of Ratan Tata and what's next going forward from here. I'm also joined by Astha Oriel, who's a correspondent with us who covers auto space, and we'll also be sharing some more updates about the buzzing EV space in this special show as well. And now, to show you a quick glimpse of the cover issue that we have right here, I have got my hands on my copy, and I'm sure you guys can also go out there. It's already on the stands and you can grab your copies too. This is all about the house that Ratan has built. That's the house of Tatas. Krishna, coming to you. Thank you so much for taking the time out. And of course, this one has been a most pleasant read that I have had. It gave so much insight about the salt to software conglomerates bigger than life that I'm sure all the viewers will also enjoy reading. But give us some sense as to what can one really expect for all those viewers who are yet to buy their copies right there. We all know how Ratan Tata was. He was a visionary leader, the best example of philanthropy that was in front of us, a role model for all the entrepreneurs, and just right at the top of India Inc. He really felt strongly about India, and his passing has definitely left a void in the Indian business realm as well. So let us start by understanding from you about the past first, where R&T, as he was popularly known as, came into the picture. Tell us, how did he really go about setting the house of Tata in order, and was it easy or very difficult for him to really prove himself right there?
Okay, thank you, Sakshi. Lovely to be here. So I'm just going back to 1991. He took over in March after the passing of JRD Tata. Understandably, very, very large shoes to fill. To be fair to Ratan Tata, it's not as if he had a fantastic track record himself. He ran two companies, Nelco and Empress Mills, and in all honesty, not with any great deal of success. So there was a sense of apprehension, and if I may say so, a level of cynicism also about the young man. I'm using the word young deliberately. He was all of 53 when he took over as Tata chairman, chairman of Tata Sons in 1991. The Indian reforms process was still 3 to 4 months away, and when he came in, he sat with a group of consultants to understand where the group was positioned, where it needed to be, and what it took or what it might take to get there. A couple of points stand out quite clearly. The strategy adopted till the turn of the century, I'm breaking it up from 1991 to 1999, was to let go of a few businesses that he believed wasn't good enough for the new India. Of course, and all of us know one of them was Tomco, Tata Oil Mills Company, which had brands like Hawam soap and detergent powders and all of it. He let go of that. He sold that to what was then called Hindustan Lever Limited, shut a whole lot of businesses, but figured out a few things. One, if he had to be accepted, he had to take care of the regional satraps. And that's a tricky one because they owe their sense of loyalty to JRD Tata. And speaking of folks like Rusi Modi, the boss of Tata Steel, Darbali Seth, who ran Tata Chemicals, and Ajit Kekar, who ran Indian Hotels. In all honesty, in all fairness, given the fact that they expected to take over, or at least one of them expected to take over at some point after the passing of JRD, it did come as a rude shock to them that they had to report to a person who's much younger and who was being viewed as somewhat of a greenhorn. So he had to take care of that. So the first 8 to 10 years was in really taking care of the satraps, letting go of the businesses, and then coming to the problem, coming to the opportunity or the challenge in terms of getting Tatas ready for the next decade. He demonstrated a sense of toughness, a sense of polite firmness, if I may say so, in terms of having it his way, let go of these people, assert his position within the group, let go of key businesses, and stumbled upon something very interesting, that the group actually did not have a common logo. So the whole sense of unification or trying to understand what the group stood for became an opportunity and a challenge for him, and initiated all these at the same time. To my mind, a person coming in from a background that he did, walking into a multitude of challenges and setting the house in order would stand out as one of his most remarkable achievements.
Absolutely. Now, also, Krishna, he was also known for his big, bold decisions that for the first time, probably Tata Group was seeing, as a whole, and that greatly also helped the Tata Group get global recognition, so to speak. Talk to us about some of these big, bold decisions. How many of them really proved out to be, something that was seen as a visionary step that really took Tata Group to a stage that was not imagined that time?
It's very apparent, Sakshi, there's one thing that's very clear. He liked the word scale, and he believed that if an industry or a business did not have scale, it would be difficult for India to stand out in the modern world. And he took the first step as far as scale is concerned through a company called Tata Tea, which eventually became Tata Global Beverages, went through several avatars, and today exists as Tata Consumer Products. He went out to England, bought a company called Tetley, and for about $500 million, a huge amount of money at that point. It's still a big amount, but you must understand this was in 2000. It is the single largest outbound transaction by an Indian company. It's not so important for the money, but the fact that he was buying out a company 4 times its own net worth. So the buyer was actually swallowing a crocodile, if I may say so. And that was a tricky one. He bought that, gave him confidence once that buyout started to work, and then decided to flex his muscles quite literally. Tata Motors a few years later went out to Korea, picked out the commercial business of Daewoo. And then Tata Steel made a couple of interesting moves. They bought over Nat Steel in Singapore, bought over Millennium Steel in Thailand, but nothing, I repeat, nothing was ever bigger than what took place in 2007 when Tata Steel went out and picked up Chorus. We've spoken about that in the story, where the whole attempt of R&T was don't think of the small buyouts, think big, think scale. Chorus, again, like Tata Tea, was a company 4 times the size of the buyer. So Tata Steel, if you remember right, was about 4.5 million tons in terms of capacity. Chorus brought forth to the table 18 million tons. And at $12 billion. So from $500 million in 2000, he was now at $12 billion in 2007. He had to raise the money, had to play the global game. And just a couple of months later, Tata Motors went out and bought Jaguar Land Rover from Ford. And the sense of quiet firmness became apparent through this whole journey of going overseas, more specifically taking the inorganic route.
Right. And when we talk about these big, bold decisions and of course how it leapfrogged Tata Group right there into the global realm, none of the journeys of the most inspiring people that we have always talked about have been sans any failures. Do talk to us about some of the biggest lessons that were learnt along the way. Any of those decisions that probably Mr. Ratan Tata would have regretted?
Nothing is more obvious to me than the case of Chorus. There were 2 bidders at that point. Tata Steel was one, Searson of Brazil was the other bidder. And a lot of people are quite cynical about the buyout of Tata Steel. But to be fair to Mr. Tata, I think the global financial crisis that hit all of us in mid-2008 was a black swan event. So the problem with that is China accounted for about a third of global production, and suddenly the glut of supply resulted in the collapse of the global steel market. Prices went downwards, and Chorus, with its plants that weren't necessarily well run, the whole idea was to buy Chorus, turn the asset around, but the global financial crisis turned everything upside down for the group. Tata Steel finally had to face a remarkably difficult scenario, loss-making businesses, a slowdown in the overall business globally, and the collapse in steel prices. Nothing could be worse than that. That's one as far as Tata Steel is concerned. Of course, as all of us know, the whole focus of Tata Steel now has been more towards the domestic market. So that itself became, I think, an example of a strategy that could be flexible as and when the moment deserved it. Even for JLR, great start. The global financial crisis again hit all of us in terms of discretionary spending, and people started to wonder why anybody would actually go out and buy an expensive car. But look at Tata Motors today. The whole success journey in terms of passenger vehicles, in many ways, the success of that can be attributed to the lessons that they picked up courtesy of the buyout of JLR. It's not as if we don't see JLR vehicles on Indian roads today. That itself is testimony to the fact that he did see a market for each of the Tata companies, not just globally but in India as well, because at the end of the day, India was the world and India led the global economy, and he lived by that tenet.
Okay. And once we have accepted the fact that he is no longer with the Tata Group to really lead it from the front, all eyes are now on Noel Tata, and Krishna, and we do know that he's been appointed as the chairman of Tata Trust that actually controls 66% of Tata Sons. And the question is, how well will he be able to take the legacy of Ratan Tata going forward? What is it that we should be really now expecting from here on for the Tata Group as a whole?
I think Noel Tata has made his name in the retail business. So you look at Westside, look at Star Bazaar, look at all these formats. Noel Tata has really kind of carved out a clear niche for himself. What is perhaps not really known is the fact that he sits on the boards of Voltas, Tata Steel, and a whole host of other companies within the group. Noel Tata is 67. He's been low profile, known to be very sharp, known to be a tremendous people's person. In one sense, his elevation as chairman of Tata Trust was not completely unexpected. It also means that the succession within the trust part of the story is now clearly in place. As you rightly mentioned, given that they own 66% of Tata Sons, the company which is the private holding company of the group, every big ticket decision of the group will now have to be routed through Tata Sons first and then to Tata Trust for the final sign off. So the trust will continue to be powerful as far as decision making is concerned, but most importantly it places Noel Tata in a position of strength now. How that's going to play out is going to be absolutely fascinating. In 2022, there was one amendment to the Article of Association where they said a person cannot hold two positions, meaning the chairman of the trust and the chairman of Tata Sons. So Noel Tata right now remains the chairman of Tata Trust. Sons, of course, is Ramna N. Chandrasekharan. We will need to keep our eyes open on how that relationship works out and the role of Noel Tata in the future. But one thing is clear, the succession plan having been laid out with such level of clarity and firmness, and most importantly alacrity, because it happened a day after Mr. Tata's passing, indicates a certain sense of direction that the group is taking.
Absolutely. Well, thanks a lot, Krishna, for giving us all of those insights. That would have definitely encouraged all our viewers to really go out there and do that in-depth study, because the story of Tata Group, both past, present and future, will really give you that understanding of how India has been, what are we going through and what do we see going forward from here. Because remember, Tata Group is a huge conglomerate, like I pointed out, from salt to software and now even the skies. There is a lot more that will define the way various industries in Indian economy will shape up going forward from here too. I'm sure this is going to be an interesting read and you don't want to miss this one for sure. So go out there and grab your copies. Let's now go across to Astha, who's also on the show, and she's the one who covers the auto space, and this is the one where a lot of buzz is being seen, especially the EV space. And what she is writing on is how an electrifying war is now brewing, as we are going to be seeing and staring at an intense competition in this space going forward. Astha, so as the race for electrification heats up, how do automakers plan to bring price parity between ICE engines and EV models? I think that's the crucial question that everybody wants to know an answer to.
Thank you, Sakshi, for inviting me. First of all, we need to understand that, when we talk about electrification, Indian government has a target of 30% electrification. And while some automakers like Maruti Suzuki and Mahindra & Mahindra are, slightly behind other automakers, but their plans are intact with how they are going to forge the electrification journey. So when I discussed with automakers how they are planning to bring the price parity down between ICE and EV models, the first thing that all automakers are focusing is localization, because battery packs or lithium ion battery cells account for 30 to 40% of EV's cost. So now the focus of automakers is to get as much localization as possible in India. Second, government incentives such as PLI schemes is really going to help automakers in bringing the price parity between ICE and EV models. Also, with only 5% tax GST for EV models as compared to ICE and hybrid models, it is going to be beneficial for the entire EV ecosystem to bring the price parity between ICE and EVs.
So how the participation of more automakers will now help India to become a giant EV hub? Do you see that happening?
Yes, Sakshi, because recently even Ford has announced that they are returning back to India after 2 years of exiting the Indian market, and their focus will be to manufacture and supply EVs globally. Along with this, automakers such as Maruti Suzuki, Mahindra & Mahindra, Tata Motors, they already have plans to export EVs around the country, around the world. So this will be a huge opportunity for India to become a EV global hub.
Okay, right, all right. This is going to be an interesting story to continue to track going forward from here, and how EV continues to win more hearts of Indians as well, who have been traditionally hardcore buyers of ICE engines, which have promised them mileage. So to shift from that into a completely different zone is going to be taking a lot, and one of the factors will be the pricing parity, which we are going to be seeing whether that happens or not going forward from here. All right, thanks a lot, Astha, for being with us, and thanks a lot, Krishna, for sharing with us all of those insights as well. There's a lot more in this edition apart from what we've discussed on this edition. This is just to help you understand what are the key things that you can actually look forward to in this latest edition of the Business Today magazine. Go out there and grab your copies, and many thanks for being with us on this special edition of BTS. But do stay tuned. Business Today Television has lined up a whole host of interactive conversations with top market masters throughout the course of the day that will be finding yourselves on your screens too. Thank you so much for being with us.